Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media. And today I am honored to bring to you Adrian Reid, who is a full-time trader based in Australia and also the founder and trading coach at Enlightened Stock Trading, which focuses on educating and supporting traders on their journey to profitable systems trading. Wow. Welcome, 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 Adrian.
Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Wow. I am so honored to have you because right now I'm working with a couple of my girlfriends and we're trying to figure out what trading platform, not necessarily platform, but what commodity we can begin to trade and learn about. So, question number one. Stock traders, investors, why do they lose money and how to turn that around? Because that's the biggest fear of beginners is losing money.
Yeah, and the sad reality is it's not just a fear, it's also the reality because most traders do lose money. And there's a number of reasons. The first one is that humans are essentially emotional beasts, right? And we have fear, we have greed, and all sorts of other emotions in between. And our challenge is that finances and money brings out those emotions, right?
Yeah.
So, we gain money, all of a sudden we want to gain more. We lose money, all of a sudden we're afraid we're going to lose more. And the financial world, and particularly the stock market and the commodities market, they move around a lot. The prices will trend, but they'll oscillate within that trend. And we feel those emotions, and when we start making decisions based on those emotions, we almost always do it at exactly the wrong time or make exactly the wrong decision. So we've got to get past the emotions in order to succeed. And the fastest way, the I don't want to say easiest because none of it's easy, it's a challenge, but
Mhm.
the fastest way to get past the emotions is to have objective rules that you put in place that tell you when to buy and when to sell. And that way you don't have all of this going on in your head while trying to make a profitable financial decision. So the set of rules, I'll call it a trading system. It's just a complete set of rules that tell you exactly when to get in, exactly when to get out, how much to buy, how much to sell. And when you have that, the emotions, you get past the emotions, or it's easier to get past the emotions because you're not trying to make a decision in the midst of all that emotional noise. So that's the first trick, right? Is have a set of rules. Make sense?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
The
Absolutely. So
the
go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say, the second trick, and this is and I'll stop here after this. The second trick is that most traders don't know if their rules or approach are actually profitable. And so we take, in my world, I take those rules that I've used to bypass my emotions and I'll test them on historical data to make sure they actually worked. Yeah, so I'll backtest those rules over 20 or 30 years of market history and make sure that in the past they worked. Now, the past is not the past doesn't represent the future, obviously, but if they didn't work in the past, they're not going to work in the future, right? So at least we know that. And then there's a number of ways we can test to give us a greater certainty that they actually will work in the future. So have rules, test them, make sure they work.
Yes. And that was taking me to my next question. The quickest path to start trading successfully. And you've already hit the most important ones. So is there anything else we need to know?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, have that system and learn to test it. It's called backtesting. There's a number of commercial software packages which you can use to do that backtesting. The next thing is you've got to make sure you stay in the game, right? So people will try and succeed by making money fast. Actually, it's more important to succeed by staying in the game, because it doesn't matter how much money you make this month. If you lose it all next month, you've still got nothing. If you make a huge amount of money this year, but you lose it all next year, you've still got nothing, right? And
Mhm.
we don't want to have to quit the game. We want to stay in it. so that we can build our wealth. So staying in the game means making sure that you risk a very small amount of money on every trade. It means making sure that you have an amount of exposure to the market so that if something goes crazy, you don't get wiped out. We have to stay in the game. That's our number one priority. Because if we don't, then we have to rebuild from zero. And that's slow.
Yes.
And if you blow up your account and you have to rebuild from zero, I can tell you in 10, 15 years' time, you're going to regret that because there's a huge opportunity cost in losing an entire account and having to regrow from zero. If you just grow slowly and conservatively over time, then you don't have that opportunity cost and your ultimate wealth, 5, 10 years down the track or more is much, much higher. So we've got to
Yeah.
have rules. We've got to test those rules. We've got to stay in a game by having relatively or very low position size, low risk per trade. So if we're wrong, it doesn't matter much. And then low exposure so that there's very little chance, if any chance, of us actually blowing up the account.
Yes. Yes. And I think what the very first thing you said was that mindset piece. Do you support people with that? Because that's the biggest part to anything that you do.
Yeah, look, even though we're systematic and rules based and numbers based, the mindset still plays a huge part of it.
Mhm.
And probably the biggest thing I think is confidence. And so I provide, when I'm teaching traders, I provide rules and systems for them to use. But without the confidence in those rules, they're worthless. Well, not worthless. They're still extremely valuable, but the trader is not going to make money out of them consistently because they're not going to follow them because they don't have the confidence in it.
Right.
So it's not just about the rules and the systems, it's also about building the confidence in the individual so the individual can follow them without uh, breaking the rules, bending the rules, ignoring the rules. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
how do we do that? We do it with a extensive testing, backtesting process where if you follow this process, you learn to understand the rules more deeply. You challenge the rules and make sure that they work in different market conditions. You vary the rules and make sure that they work in a variety of different markets um, and ways. So by doing that sort of testing, you build that confidence, which cements the mindset. And then even beyond that, you've got the general mindset about self-belief and money beliefs and so on. And those all come out as well. And the great thing is in the process of trading, a lot of this junk comes up. A lot of your money beliefs will surface. And when I'm working with the traders, that all surfaces. We work through that, and then ultimately you end up more clear and more confident in your ability to make money, and then therefore more profitable.
Yes, yes, exactly. Because that's so important in anything is how what you think, what you believe, your belief systems, because we believe what we believe.
Yeah, and what we believe is absolutely true for us, right? I actually was
Yes.
having this conversation with one of my students last night who, when it got to the point of looking at the code of the system, I say coding, you've got to write your rules into the software, and that requires a little bit of coding, which is technical. It's not super hard, complex stuff, but some people naturally like that. Some people naturally are afraid of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, he said, "Oh, I don't know how to code." Like, I know, I realize most people don't know how to code. But when you hold on to that belief, oh, I don't know how to do that, I can't do that. Because he was more saying, I can't do that, as opposed to I don't know how to do that yet. Right? They're two very different beliefs. I don't know how to do it yet. My belief, I believe in my ability to figure things out. Right? In general, for pretty much anything, I believe I can figure it out. And that's a very empowering belief. But if you have the belief of, oh, I can't do that, whatever that is, trading, coding, money, then you can't and you don't. So,
Absolutely. I have abolished that from my dictionary. I can't stand that word can because
mhm.
you automatically put yourself in failure
Yes,
simply by
absolutely.
saying can't.
100%.
Wow. So your trading program, is it talk a little bit about what that looks like so we understand.
You're talking about the systems or
Yes,
the teaching
the system,
process?
the
The
system.
systems. Okay, so there's a number of different styles of systems or trading strategies that exist that work. So the generic styles, let's call it trend following, mean reversion, momentum, and seasonality. Okay, so I'll just touch on each of those so you know kind of what they are.
Okay.
Trend following is where you buy something that's going up with the expectation that it'll keep going up so you can make money, and you hold it until it starts going down so you get out at the end of the trend. I mean, if you think about you get a tennis ball, you throw the tennis ball across the room. It doesn't just hit the floor and turn around and come back the other way. It kind of keeps going in the same direction until
Mhm.
it hits something and comes back, right? It hits an obstacle or a barrier or something changes in its environment. A stock or a commodity is kind of similar. It'll tend to trend until the financial conditions change, the economic conditions change, its competitive environment changes, and then it'll turn around and start trending the other way. We can make money from that trend just by finding stocks that are going up, buying them, and holding them until they start going down, trend following. The second strategy or trading strategy is mean reversion. Mean reversion is where financial instruments tend to uh, overreact and bounce back. So if you think something is going up, a stock is going up, and there's some bad news, what happens? People panic, they hit sell. Stock price goes down. But when people panic, do they overreact or underreact? Typically, they overreact, right?
Yeah.
So the stock price goes down too far on bad news and will tend to bounce back, either a little bit or a lot. And so we can profit from that because if the stock is going up, there's some bad news. Um, it falls rapidly. We buy in the heat of the panic and sell once it recovers just a little bit. That's a very reliable, or can be a very reliable way of making money, particularly on the indices, um, because humans systematically overreact.
Yes, they
So
do.
we can buy in that overreaction. It takes courage because everyone's panicking, right? And to buy and put ourselves at financial risk when everyone's panicking feels unnatural. That's why you need a system to tell you exactly when, because it makes that much easier to do. So trend following, mean reversion, momentum or rotational momentum is where you buy the strongest stocks. When they're no longer the strongest stocks, you sell them and then you rebuy the strongest stocks. So you're always kind of buying into the stocks that are going the best.
Hmm.
And that's neat because you always get to hold the biggest names that everyone's talking about, but it's even more neat because it actually makes money. So that's cool. And then the fourth and final one is seasonality. There's certain seasonal trends that tend to recur in the markets. So, I mean, one of the most famous ones is probably the Santa Claus rally. Stocks tend to rally through Christmas and just out the other side of Christmas. Um, there's others like different time of the month effects. Stocks tend to rally towards the end of the month. Um, there's holiday effects, going into a public holiday, stocks will tend to rally through a public holiday. So things like that are recurring patterns you can create some rules around. So four generic strategies that you can create specific rules around that tend to work over time. Trend following out of all of those is probably my favorite. I've certainly made the most money from that, but rotational momentum also very robust strategy. You've just got to have the confidence and keep following it.
Yes. And does this apply to no matter what you're trading, any type of stocks, commodity that you're trading?
Yeah, I'll say the generic strategies do, the precise rules are different.
Okay.
So, for example, you could imagine that the people and the companies that make up the US stock markets, like the Nasdaq, might be, and the rules that they trade by might be different to the rules that and the people that trade in Hong Kong. The exchanges might have slightly different rules. The market constituents are slightly different. The kind of personality and economic conditions are different. Therefore, the precise nature of price movements are different. So if I have a strategy or system for the US market and I apply it to the Hong Kong market, it might not work that great.
Okay, I see.
but it can probably be tuned to the different personalities of each market. Yeah, so I have one strategy, a trend following strategy. It works in Australia, it works in Hong Kong, it works in the US, and it works on many other markets. But to optimize it or to fine tune it for those markets, you can improve the performance quite a bit if you make it specific to each market. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Wow, you make this sound so easy when I'm sitting there trying to read and understand. It's like it doesn't click. That's why you need a human to basically talk you through the everything, because trying to do it on your own is just not the same.
And it's really challenging to do it on your own because there's so much noise. I
Yeah.
mean, I've got only a very small portion of the books that I've read to learn trading, over my shoulder here, but there's so many different approaches
Mm-hmm.
and so much conflicting information. You should do this, you should never do that. Hang on, this person says I should, this person says I should never. Or this is the best way. No, that's the best way. Or, buy when this happens, or buy when that, like how do we know which is right?
Yeah.
And one of the challenges is getting a mentoring or getting a learning environment that is internally consistent. You've got a full story, start to finish of it, of how to do it and how to make it work. And when you try and learn on your own, you're getting a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and you've got to assemble it all somehow, translate and make it align so that you can make money. And it's really tough. That's why it takes traders 3 to 5 years to figure it out and make it work if
Yeah.
you do it on your own. But when I'm working with a new trader who's the right sort of person, an analytical sort of person, we can do that journey in a couple of months.
Wow.
Because it's all internally consistent and you don't have all of that noise.
Yeah.
That's uh,
And
it's a
that's
big
what I'm feeling right now, noise. Because one person is talking, now some stuff is similar, but some stuff is not. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, which one is it?
Yeah. And look, I think there's some good, there's some solid generic principles that are probably indisputable.
Mhm.
Very small risk per trade, no matter how you trade, because you're going to be wrong a lot. This is not an environment where you get to have 98% success, like win rate, because the markets are they're just too volatile and too difficult.
Yes.
So you're going to be wrong many times and many times in a row potentially. So you've got to make sure that when you are wrong, you don't lose too much money because you're going to have a loss, a loss, a loss. Your account is going to be going down. If you have 5 or 10 losses in a row, that wouldn't be surprising. One time early in my trading career, I had 27 losing trades in a row.
Wow.
And look, I was doing a number of things wrong at the time, but I was following a strategy that actually made money. It actually worked. And I did make money from that strategy. But I didn't realize at the time it was going to have 27 losing trades in a row because my exits were sort of too tight. I was trying to get out as soon as the stock went down just a little bit. And so I ended up taking a lot of small losses. And
Mhm.
if you risk too much on each trade, you lose too big a portion of your account on each loss, and you have a lot of losses in a row, all of a sudden you're in a big hole, and it's very hard to recover. So small risk per trade is probably one indisputable piece of guidance that will keep you alive.
Yeah.
Don't use leverage or don't use a lot of leverage, particularly at the beginning of your journey, is another bit of guidance I think that's probably, relevant for almost everyone. Leverage blows up more traders than almost anything. Because as soon as if you're highly leveraged, trying to make lots of money fast, as soon as the market goes heavily against you, you're out. You lose it all.
Yes. Yes. And that's one of the things, I'm talking with my friend about is it's a slow walk.
Yes.
It's not it's not a get rich quick kind of thing. You've got to be in it for the long haul.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of volatility, a lot of setbacks that you're going to have in your trading journey. And you imagine, can you imagine thinking, oh, I'm going to be a brain surgeon? And I'm just going to go practice some brain surgery so that I can figure out how to do brain surgery, and then I can become rich doing a brain surgeon, being a brain surgeon. It's like, no one said that ever, right? No one thinks that.
No.
However, people do think, ah, I'm going to be a trader. I'm going to go play around and be a trader. I'll practice trading so I can get rich trading. Said just about everyone who ever started trading. For some reason, we think, oh, it's easy. But the fact is, it's not. It's a big competition, and there's a lot of smart people who have got a lot of years of experience. And when you're new, you don't have that experience. It's a tough competition. You can win it, but it's not an easy get rich quick sort of deal. You've got to learn, and there's a lot of lessons, and it's not intuitive. It's different to everything else that you've done.
Yes, and I believe that. I mean, and being just going through this thing called life, nothing is easy and nothing is typically quick.
Look, I think here's the thing, Tony Robbins says we overestimate what we can achieve in a year. We underestimate what we can achieve in 10. And that's absolutely true in trading.
Hmm.
People think, oh, I'm going to start trading. I'm going to replace my income. I'm going to quit my job next month. It's like, absolutely not going to happen. It's not going to happen because there's a lot to learn. You've got to build your capital. That takes time.
Yes.
And, but over 10 years, you would be amazed what you can achieve if you don't blow up. If you have rules that are good and profitable and you follow them, if you don't risk too much, if you do all of these things, 10, 20 years time, you can be in a pretty amazing situation with very low ongoing effort. Because
Mm.
once you've learned the lessons, the implementation of those lessons it doesn't have to take a lot of time because you're following rules, a system, and that is typically pretty quick. So the funny reality about this is what people expect at the beginning, quick, easy money, is what it feels like down the track. But it's not like that at the beginning. Like for
Yeah.
me now, once I've got a system that I'm confident in, I can execute it and it takes a couple of minutes a day. It's easy, but only because I did the work. Only
Mm.
because I understand the system, only because I built confidence in it, only because I've dealt with the emotions. So at the beginning, you don't have that.
No.
It's hard, but later on, it's easy. It's very strange.
Yes, and that's how it works. Yeah, that's exactly how it works, Adrian. So if people want to work with you, how do they do so?
Look, the best way, the business is Enlightened Stock Trading. That's my trading education business. And in Enlightened Stock Trading, we take people from beginner all the way through to advanced uh, of using a systematic trading approach. If you want to learn about this, go to enlightenedstocktrading.com/free. And I have a free couple of free courses, 2 free ebooks, and some cheat sheets to kind of help you get started. And if you love that, and if you really want to learn more, then we'll be in touch automatically because you've registered for that free stuff. And I think that's a solid place to get started. Even if we never work together, it'll give the listeners some core skills, some lessons which will help them stay in the game longer, avoid blowing up. And so I'd say that's the best way.
Yes, yes. And you also have a podcast.
I have a YouTube channel. I don't interview others, but I've been on many podcasts myself, and I do regularly present on other trading education platforms.
Okay.
So if you Google Adrian Enlightened Stock Trading, there's plenty of material out there, and my YouTube videos. I talk a lot about the mindset stuff. I talk a lot about the different systems and strategies and how to test them. So there's a lot of material if you like what you're hearing just start diving into the systematic trading world, and you learn some things that'll keep you in the game longer and help you succeed.
Yes, and you definitely have to have a system. I mean, everything you need a system.
That's true, isn't it? Really, when you think about it, we just don't know we have them
We
because
just,
they're kind of habits,
yeah,
right?
yeah. We don't think about it that way, but I mean, down to cooking a meal, it's a
Yeah,
system.
it is. And what happens if you don't follow the recipe? Oh, I don't like, I'm going to put more salt, right? It might be good, but it might be horrible. It's like,
Absolutely.
oh, I'm going to buy more Tesla. It might be good, it might be horrible. We don't
True,
know.
true
So,
that.
yeah.
Yes, for sure, for sure. Wow. I like this. Now, let me ask you about AI and trading, because now the big thing is AI gives you the signals and blah blah, and you know the rest.
Yeah. So, look, if it sounds like easy money, get rich quick, retire next week, it's probably not real. As a general principle for anything in the financial world, AI is going to be a hugely powerful tool for trading. And there's no doubt you can use it to help and improve your trading. It's not the first thing that you need to learn, I suspect. You know, the first thing already talked about some of the first things that you need to learn is how to control your risk. You know, how to have a system that bypasses your emotions and gets you into the market and out of the market at the right times. Uh, Controlling your leverage, those sorts of things. They're the first things that you want to learn. How can AI help? A couple of ways. Um, I've had many conversations with various AIs about trading, to get system ideas to test, to get ideas to improve a strategy that I'm using. It's very good for that. There are more and more AI platforms where it's generating the signals for you. This is going to become a very big thing. Um, I believe that that's going to be helpful. I don't believe it's a magic bullet because I don't think there's any magic bullet.
True.
So, like anything, if you have a system, a software, and you put garbage in, what do you get out?
Gar-
Garbage. Yeah, so garbage in, garbage out holds true. So when you're working with these AI platforms, you need to know what you're doing so that you give it sensible inputs so it gives you sensible outputs.
Mhm.
And if you don't, if you're just buying it off the shelf and you're trading it blind, you know, just blindly following its rules, hoping that it's gonna make you money, look, it might work, but you know, you've got no basis for that belief. And so if you're making money, you're going to feel fine. It's like, oh, this is great. Yeah, making money, making money, making money. But what happens when it goes into drawdown? Which it will, because there is no such thing as making money in a straight line forever in the financial markets. As soon as it goes into drawdown, if you don't have that confidence in the strategy, what happens up here? You start to second guess the signals, and you're probably going to pull a pin or do something silly at exactly the wrong moment.
Right.
And I think we need to understand a bit more deeply what it's doing and have confidence in that so we can follow it.
Yes.
So a newbie coming in and jumping straight into an AI platform going, yeah, I'm a trader. Like, well, no, you're not. You're kind of blindly following a computer that thinks it knows what it's doing, and you don't know if it knows what it's doing or not.
True.
It might work out well, or it might not. I'm not sure.
True. True. So you need to know before you start meddling around with AI, pretty much.
I would say yes. I think it's not the place I would start. You know, get some fundamental, some no, get some basic training first, right? And then go learn to use the advanced machinery.
Okay. Now, with your trading platform, how often do you meet with the students?
Students in my mentoring program, we have
Yeah.
4 live sessions each week. They don't have to come to every session, and basically we encourage a session a week just to keep in touch and deal with the questions. Because as you go on this journey, there's a lot of questions. You know,
Oh,
no matter how great the training is, and our training is pretty solid, we've been doing it for a long time. Students always have questions, and they need someone to bounce those off and share their analysis and check that they're doing it right. So, we have 4 live sessions a week. We have constant forum access, so ask questions and get answers. And believe it or not, we also have an AI clone of me. So I've trained an AI with over 800 hours of my video of teaching trading, everything I've ever written, and thousands of Q&A. I've trained the AI so that you can ask it questions. It gives you answers back as me in my not my voice as in an auditory way, but my voice is in how I would respond.
Yeah.
And that is just such a cool use of AI because it allows people to get access to me instantly, no matter what time of the day it is, no matter where I am and what I'm doing. So,
Wow.
yeah, they
That,
get the mentoring students get a lot of access and a lot of support because there's a lot to learn, and it's you can do that quickly as long as you've got that support.
yes. And people study different times. Like I'm a type of person, I might study like 4 a.m. in the morning. My mind is a whole lot more fresher and, I absorb better. So I like that.
Yeah, and we're helping students all over the world as well, which can be, a challenge. If it's midnight my time, but it's lunchtime your time, you
Yeah.
know, but you want help, right? So I've got my coaches are spread around the world, but also the AI and the forum allows you to keep getting access, keep getting support, no matter where you are, no matter what time.
Yes. And I like your approach, because it's systems. And I'm being in the IT field for over 50 years. I'm wired with systems. That's how I think. There has to
Mhm.
be a system for everything that I do, down to the smallest thing. And I'm real probably anal about that, but I can't help it because of the path that I've been on.
Yeah, and not everyone has that advantage when they come into the markets. But putting some structure around it, putting a process around it, making it repeatable, so you're
Yeah.
not kind of all over the place. A repeatable process is a process you can test and validate and improve over time. But if you don't have that process, it's pretty hard to know what you did right and what you did wrong and how to improve it. Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right because I always say perfection to that's another thing to me that needs to go out the dictionary because
Yes.
you can't measure perfection. You can only measure excellence by
Mm,
all the different things that you've done over time.
yeah, I think that's right. It's very pertinent to trading as well because someone who wants to get everything right and before pulling the trigger is someone who never pulls the trigger.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the financial world, and we have to come to accept that. And so I have many systems, right? Trading systems, as we've talked about. And I know if I follow those systems over time, they will make money.
Mhm.
But for each individual trade, I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I've got a kind of range of expected outcomes, but there's no perfect trade. At least you can't pick it in advance. Later on, after the trade is finished, you go, wow, that was a great trade. But you have no idea going into it which one is going to be the big winner and which one is going to be a dud. You have no idea. And
Right.
so therefore, for if you have those perfectionist tendencies, it's really tough mentally because
Yeah.
you've got to accept so much uncertainty and perfectionism uncertainty. They kind of don't really play well together.
No, it doesn't. And with anything for that matter, because if you wait that you have to do it, you can't read it without doing it.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely right.
And to get to that place of excellence where it becomes easy, it's all about action. Action is what creates the excellence.
Yeah. There's a really good lesson as well, which, many students have to learn, which is before you get into the market, before you're doing it, you can look at it theoretically, say, okay, yeah, I understand. I get it. I know what I've got to do. I've got to buy here. I've got to sell there. I've tested it. I know that works. I have confidence in it. But that's all theoretical.
Mm.
until you actually do it.
Yes.
And then you do it, and what happens? All of this emotion comes up. You go, what? And then you start second guessing things and you realize, oh, actually, I didn't think of that, and I haven't thought of that before. And how do I do this? And what's that? I didn't notice this thing before. And like all of this comes up because you're doing it, which is
Yes.
great. And that's the point I love when people actually get into the market and then they have all this different set of questions and challenges. So,
Yeah.
okay, then we deal with those. But
Yeah.
those people who are sitting on the sidelines perfecting everything in a theoretical way, they never get to that point where the real questions come up.
Right.
And so we got to get in the game. But the trick is when you get in the game, you've got to do it safely. Because most people will go, oh, I'm going to be a trader, and they get in the game like big, all their money. It's like, whoa, no, no. When you get in the game, you want to do it in a small, safe way because
Yeah.
all these things are still going to come up. Then you can learn them and deal with them, and then you can scale up over time, and then you can survive. That's the
Yes.
key.
Slow walk.
Yeah, slow war. I really like that. I might steal that.
Yeah.
Borrow it.
Adrian, this has been great. I've learned so much from you. I can't wait to get over to your website. So can you let us know one more time what that website is so we can get all those goodies you got over there?
Absolutely. If you go to enlightenedstocktrading.com/free, opt in there, you'll get a couple of ebooks, which will really help you survive and grow as a trader. Two free courses, and there's 4 cheat sheets for different aspects of trading, really to help you get in the markets in a safe way, survive long enough to learn and actually become a trader. Love to help you. Enlightenedstocktrading.com/free.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And I know you got up pretty early to be with us today. So thank you so much for that. And audience, thank you as well. And we will definitely have this conversation again, Adrian.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. Really, really enjoyed myself.
Absolutely.